So welcome again. There are three types of consultings, right? So to speak. There's business consulting, there is technology consulting, and there's subject matter related consulting, where it's called an SME in short, right? The subject matter expert. Now, typically, technology falls into the foray of SME, all right? But because technology has gone horizontally so wide, technology is now treated separately, and the subject matter expert would be, and we go into details of those, typically are guys who will come from a specific background, like a finance or an accounting or a taxations or an HR consultant. So those are subject matter expert for a particular function, right? In fact, they go even deeper, and we'll come to it in a minute. So what has been written as a pro tip there, right? So consulting is a specialized field of helping customers resolve their most pressing problems and the issues in the preeminent way possible. Now we discussed this, we understand what goes into consulting. Why this has been mentioned? Because now you start thinking in terms of what each type of a consultant does, okay? What you see also is a list of various kind of consultants named and what sort of consulting that they do, right? There's strategy consulting, there's marketing consulting, there's operation. Now all of these fall largely into the two domains, or three if you will, as I explained, right? The business or a subject matter expert. And technology has been added because, as I told you, is broad based. So with that said, what does a business consulting activity consist of, right? A business consulting activity can be classified into strategy or operations, okay? Sometimes finance also falls into this foray of activity if it is at the corporate level only, okay? But once you get into taxation, you get into accounting, you get into, various other factors that go into finance, that becomes a specific from a subject matter expert, okay? For example, a geography specific audit tax law consultant, right? He would have that he will be an expert in that particular country, the law of the country, the taxation of that country, and so the accounting principles of that country. And that becomes a very niche, specific to a consultant, okay? So that doesn't fall into business, that falls into SME. The business consultant might take help from such people to go about providing the solution that he's looking for. Okay, so business consulting should be looked at from a strategy perspective and an operation perspective, and they typically fall into the foray of helping the CEOs, the chairman, etc. when they want to, put a structure. They feel the structure of the organization, given the problem, might serve the purpose. So they might go about doing those things. If they think operationally, the operational model itself has to change, then they get into that mode of discussions with the customer and provide the solutions accordingly. Okay, so they are more on the, if you understand, it's on the CXO or the board level, etc. Whatever at the high level solution from a business purview is required, they come in there. Okay, and if that solution requires help at the SME level, then they take help from them respectively. Okay, now the question arises here is, in the operational perspective of a consultant, right? That means a business consulting for operations purposes. Though it is at a higher level, if there's a discussion that a digitalization, that means how the organization's business model has to change and how digitalization can help, right? They typically get the technology consultant, who in this case will be a technology expert for digitalization. And that typically plays that role of a business consultant also, because digitalization is a very far-fetched subject from a perspective of person who understands business, understands technology, understands some part of the elements of that vertical that goes into play, and then understands how the processes throughout the larger organization comes into existence. And hence, they play a critical role. So they only deal with the CXO and the chairman, because below that it will not make meaningful because it's a strategic one. So that's a digitalization activity. So business consultant then goes away. His role from a solution perspective would be that, that particular organization from a business perspective requires to do a digitalization kind of consulting activities, and it's beyond the business domain. which then a digitalization consultant comes into existence. Okay. So now if you see, there is a hybrid between a technology and a business. Okay. Now to make it a little simple for you again, a business consultant typically falls into 4 areas of strategy and operations, and then he goes out. Okay. A subject matter expert and I'm not going serially or what you see on the screen. I'm going a little away from that only because to make it a little more simpler for you. So from a subject matter expert, as I discussed earlier, it could mean a specific function expert who comes into existence because of a problem in that functional area. For example, finance, HR, sales. Okay, sales typically also falls into business, mind you. Okay, so it's a little open-ended field, but when you get into a CRM mode, that a customer experience is required to be done, so on and so forth, that is where a subject matter expert then comes into existence. Okay, and then marketing, and then so on and so forth. So various functions of an organization is where an SME comes into play and starts providing a solution. Okay, and more niche the area is, the higher the cost of the consultant. Okay, on a per minute or per hourly basis. Please understand that. Okay, so even if you have to wear a hat and you're a super micro niche guy with expertise there, as I told during my Rise 1 and Rise 2 lectures, you would have understood the importance of being micro and super micro niche, right? Same goes here, right? Now with that said, technology. Okay, so now technology is ingrained into all businesses. If it is not, that business is set for doom already. Okay, because in the digital era, where the knowledge industry is so vast, technology is going to be the key kind of diagonal as well as a horizontal which goes across. So technology plays an important role in all aspects, right, from business to the subject matter expertise or something, right, because technology will be ingrained somewhere. Hence the mention of technology separately. So technology in its own foray of things will be broken into like a engineering, software engineering is one of the domains. Digitalization, I told you, is one of the domain, right? There could be hardware domain, there could be a cloud engineering domain, and so on and so forth, right? It just goes deeper, right? Because each of them then have a further classification and so on and so forth. Okay, so, and it's not been put in here just not to confuse you. If you are the relevant expert, these things can be brought out and we can discuss this in the Rise circles if required, and we go deeper from there. Okay, with that said, there are about 19 mentioned there, different kind of consulting if you see on the right hand side list. But this is not the, it's not exhaustive list. This list can continue to at least hundreds of those, right? Because it's just too many consulting activities out there you can be part of, right? And if you are a particular niche which is not listed there, that automatically makes you a consultant in that niche, right? The ones that are put in there are the most popular ones, if you will, and are most sought after for requirement purposes. Okay, so with that said, if you understood the types of consulting, you might want to position yourself in any of these, and if they are not listed or enlisted here, you might want to put a list for yourself, and that becomes your area of expertise as an SME, right? And there are top dollars for SMEs, mind you, right? Now we'll go into details of how the consulting as a business works, where you'll have to do your research, find which areas and so on and so forth, and then get into getting your business plan play and how you kind of start blitzscaling that. So, but it's important to find yourself, right? The persona of a consultant, and then what sort of consulting. Two things that we've discussed up till now. Let's go to the third one, right? Let's look at the traits and how they fall in place. I'll see you there.